Rasulullah. You can find those components as the Shahada in the Quran and our Sunni sources. And so the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, when he said, Kunna jalisun ma Rasulullah, itala alayna rajulun. When we were sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a man who was wearing exceedingly white clothes and exceedingly black hair.
There is a verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he said, يقول المنافقون أن يشهد المنافقون أنك رسول الله والله يشهد إنك لرسول.
Allah, He bears witness that you are the messenger of Allah. And the word shahada is used in there in the Quran. So we find that these terms which are we find in the Quran these terminology which we use, the shahada, including the material within it, is in the Quran and it is in the Sunnah or the traditions of the Prophet. But going back to original discussion was the Trinity. Yes, sure. Let me just finish my question. I'll leave it to you. The Trinity, which you started speaking about, and you said you're Trinitarian. You say the idea is there of essence and persons.
No,
could you show me that, please?
So yeah, before we got to that, I actually asked you, okay, you don't actually necessarily know how I articulate the doctrine, right? So I use specific terminology that may be found in Nicaea and the Cappadocians, for example, Usia and hypostasis. That's the kind of terminology I use. Now, the terms of essence and persons, these are brought about by Latin Trinitarians such as Augustine, such as Aquinas, that will come way later in the scholastic traditional periods, such as Hilary of Poitiers, who specifically would use Latin writings as well. So I don't necessarily use those terminologies. Now, the issue that I would have is this, right? The term that I asked you for in the specific text, for example, the Quran, I'm not denying that the conception of the Shahada is found. That's not actually my argument.
And the term is there. Is there Shahada?
I said the conception is found, that's fine. But the
wording.
But the statement that I asked for is not necessarily there. Because again, if I asked you, will you find in the Quran, you must declare the Shahada in order to be a Muslim in the Quran, then you would say, then you would say no. Now the issue that you're using is, you're using the Sunnah, and I have no issue with that. But that does not necessarily negate the statement that I said. For you, the statement would be vacuously true. Because it would be true, just it wouldn't necessarily.
So why would you launch that kind of argument if it has no effect to the theology of a Muslim?
The reason why it's not necessarily a central argument. I was using as an example to show you that I can use, for example, the tradition of Christianity as well as their holy text to come to the conception of the Trinity.
Okay,
I can do the same thing.
Great. Okay, so now let's go on to this. This is where the discussion.
Right?
So your sources. So you discounted the Sunni source traditions. It makes no sense.
Only in the one example. No.
So you mentioned that these terms.
Acknowledge that I'm just only doing it to show you that it is erroneous to disregard those. That's why I
disregard what?
Yeah. So the reason why I only used the Quran was to show you that it would be an erroneous thing to do.
I don't discard your traditions. So
wait, I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
One second, speak.
I understand he's not a Quranist. Just give me a second. I understand he's not a Quranist, right? That's not necessarily my issue. My issue is this. I wanted to show that in certain discussions in this topic, some people disregard this section of where people get their theistic belief or Christian belief from.
Okay, we don't. Okay, so I want to know, look, they call it a progressive revelation. Most scholars call this a progressive revelation.
Scholars?
Many scholars, N.T. Wright does it, Dunn, Bruce Metzger, Bart Ehrman, all of them call this a thing. I'm saying you know this, but you're saying but you're asking which
Am I talking
Sig. You're asking Sig. 1 second, I haven't finished my statement. I'm saying something you know is true, but you're acting like progressive revelation. I've never heard of it before. 1 second, Sig. 1 second. So the scholars, you asking it makes it as if you're unaware of this statement. Okay, are you aware of this statement? This simple question. Yes. Okay, so there's no. Is this a yes or no? No, I want to finish.
Yes or no answer.
I wanted to finish what I was saying.
I'm gonna say yes.
So the scholars say yes.
The
scholars say it's a progressive revelation.
Am I able to give you an actual answer?
You know when you speak, I don't interrupt you. Every time I've spoken, every time I've spoken, you've interrupted me every single time. Yes or no?
I have not interrupted you.
Or is that a yes or no question? Is that Have you interrupted me almost every single time? Almost every. Listen to the words carefully.
Almost every single time.
Yes or no? Yes, no. That's it. You know you're just being dishonest.
How is that being dishonest?
It's like you.
I sound dishonest.
Anyway, Sig. I'm gonna continue, but let's try to keep the interruption. No, I'm gonna finish. I said. I'm gonna finish.
You're
I'm
gonna finish the
speaking.
question that you asked me,
No,
right?
no. I was
So
saying
you didn't ask me a question.
Sig, calm down.
I'm very calm. This is just how I
Okay,
speak.
calm down.
right?
Okay,
So,
listen.
I mean, I was speaking to you the same way over there. So
Yeah, and you were interrupting all the way through, and I asked you then to calm down as well. Anyway, listen. Sig. The scholars refer to it as a progressive revelation. The reason is because it's not actually found as formulaic form in the Bible.
Can I
Do you? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is very important, right? These scholars that you are quoting are specifically academics in a modern eclectic tradition, okay? So people like Metzger, N.T. Wright, Ehrman himself not necessarily being a Christian, he's necessarily a doubter, which is fine, right? These individuals are part of a modern eclectic tradition, which is okay, right? They come in the 1900s and onwards, so they're modern day academics and individuals. However, if you look at early Christian scholars such as, and not limited to, Gregory of Nyssa, Gregory Nazianzen, Basil the Great, Augustine, and other individuals, these early Christian scholars of the faith in different situated parts of the world, these individuals would not necessarily talk about a development of doctrine. In fact, the only Christian sect that necessarily, out of the three apostolic churches of Eastern
We say they
Orthodoxy,
don't, sir. I just want to. You say they don't say that the theology was Gregory of Nyssa. I'm aware of it. Cyril of. Go on, Nyssa. Go on.
So Gregory of Nyssa, I didn't mention Cyril. Gregory of Nyssa, Basil the Great, or just Basil of Caesarea, Gregory Nazianzen, so the three Cappadocian fathers, Augustine. These individuals don't necessarily explicate on the development of doctrine. This is certainly an issue that has come up around in the modern day where they try to reconcile certain issues which aren't necessarily issues in that sense. So what I would say is this, right? If you look at actual dogmatic statements from Christians that actually believe, so for example, the Roman Catholics, who make up the majority of people that profess to be Christian, even when they specifically talk about the evolution of dogma, they only call it necessarily a flourishing insofar as people's statements and other degrees, so considered decrees.
Okay,
so
cool.
they wouldn't even say it in that sense.
Okay, cool. So you've just said. So let's go back. Let's go back to the original. One second, bro. Sig, focus. Sig, I'm here.
That's fine.
So going back to the original, all you said was that these guys say it is in the Bible, yeah? The Cappadonian fathers, all
no, they said that it's not an evolution.
Okay, that's not evolution of doctrine.
Yeah,
It's there in the Bible. Exactly what I just said. Yeah? So show me where, going back to the original one, where persons or essence or in the Trinity is in the Bible, or the evidence that they use to show that this evidence or persons is in the Bible.
So this comes to a very important point, like I was trying to establish before. I don't just go by the Bible.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah.
So as an inquirer, right, I do look into the history of the church and apostolic succession to derive doctrines that have arisen and doctrines that have actually been explicated in the times that they have been set. Okay, so I also use that as well. The same way you use the Quran and Sunnah, I also use other extant things.
Ours is different. We could talk about that slightly different. You mentioned, that.
I mean, it's the same insofar as you go to other sources. For
okay, so now you just said that the fathers said that they used the Bible. It wasn't a progressive. You said it was in the Bible. I confirmed that. I affirmed that. Yeah.
Things, yes.
So now I'm asking you, pressing you for where it says essence and persons.
Good.
You're now saying, but we don't just use the Bible as if it's not in the Bible.
No,
you're saying that we use also history. Yeah,
yes.
This is it. Yeah. But you just argued against that, saying it's in the Bible, it's not progressive revelation. But then you end up in what I said, it is a progressive revelation.
Yeah, it's fine.
Are you listening to what I'm saying and what you're saying?
To what you're saying.
Okay. So if you say, let me finish. The only reason I stopped is because you're interrupting me. The whole topic of progressive revelation means that it wasn't there in the beginning. It took a period of time for it to come. So if you now say it's not in the Bible, it came in the Council of Nicaea or grew up, flourished at that time, that means you're agreeing with me.
Okay,
but my question is, if you're disagreeing with me and saying that these terms like essence and persons are in the Bible, then please show us. Okay. Because I showed you that the Shahada is in Quran.
Yes,
the Shahada is in Sunnah.
Is in the Quran
and is Sunnah. Any other demand that it must say it like this in this way. But the Shahada comes in multiple forms. And I gave you a Shahada form. And it's in there. And that's what makes it according to Islam. Listen, are you listening? Or I'm just talking to yourself here? The Shahada comes in multiple forms. One of the forms is the ones that I mentioned to you. Now in regards to Tawheed, everything is there in the Quran. In regards to Trinity, what can you bring us from the Bible?
Okay, so this is important. I need to go back to actually something that you said. Okay, so you were talking about, for example, the flourishing of these things. Remember the issue at hand. You brought up, right, certain modern scholars that follow some sort of eclectic system, okay, which is fine. that argue for a quote-unquote development of doctrine, okay? I therefore quoted ancient critics that would actually say otherwise. That was the point. Now, when they come to the conception of the Trinity, they use the apostolic tradition as well as the Christian holy text, which, by the way, is just one part of the apostolic tradition. So, now I need to talk to you about the terms that I actually use, right? Like I explained before, when you say person and essence, I'm telling you that those terms that you're actually telling me, those come from a specific variant of the tradition. A variant just means a difference in the language, i.e.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, a variant just means a difference. And by variant, I simply mean that there were people that spoke a different language, i.e. the Latins. So Latin Trinitarians such as, but not limited to, Jerome, Augustine, Hypocrates, they would use the term person and essence, persona and essentia.
Okay, great. Why would they use those terms? Let's get to the crux. Why did they use those?
Because they speak Latin. Now, the issue that I have is this.
No, I use, that's what I was asking. Not because they speak Latin. Yeah, sure. Let's keep it to the point.
Yeah,
you're saying, you're repeating a lot of the stuff you said, but it's not relevant to what I said. No, it's not. You said you had a problem. I know, Sig, but listen, but you're going way off topic.
You interrupted me, right?
But the reason is I didn't go off topic.
I didn't go off topic.
You're trying to go off topic now.
This is the same topic, right? About the actual terminology I use. Because you asked me at the beginning.
You said it's not progressive revelation, meaning it's in the Bible.
I said it's not.
So where is it? Then you say it. All of the Cappadonian fathers. Listen. When you said the Cappadonian fathers believed that it wasn't a progressive revelation, you argued that they believe it's in the Bible. So where is it? Are you listening or?
I'm listening, but you're actually interrupting.
But this can't be a discussion. No, I'm just saying that you're going offhand. You're going offhand. So bring it back. Where is it in the Bible?
I haven't gone off topic, right?
Okay, where is it in the Bible?
This is the issue that we have. And stay with me on this one, okay?
But don't take too long and talk about everything else apart from the topic.
So you said at the beginning that there are scholars, okay, modern scholars specifically, that say that there has been a development of doctrine in regards to the Trinity. My response to you, and listen very carefully, was that there are scholars earlier than them that say otherwise. That is what I actually said in response.
Excellent.
Now,
thank you.
I then said, listen, it's very important that I talk to you about the usage of terms. I use the terms, and I've said it on the recording already, usia and hypostasis.
You never said it, you just said that.
That's exactly what I said in the recording.
No, you never.
I did.
I can guarantee this first time you used non-English terms. You said essence.
I've said usia and hypostasis. I have
in the
said
camera right now in discussion, you have not.
You will be able to watch that recording, and trust me, you will find where I say those.
You're going to take me out for lunch if you're going to take me out for lunch if you're wrong, yeah? You're going to take me out for lunch if you're wrong.
Sure. So this is the issue that we have, right? The term hypostasis is in the Bible, okay? And the term usia, I do believe, is in the Bible.
Okay, now, these are Latin terms,
These are not Latin terms. These are Greek terms.
Greek terms, right?
Persona and essentia, those are Latin terms, and those terms have been used in the Western Church today, which is completely fine.
Okay.
But the terms that I use, insofar as I like to be more historical with my explication of theology, would simply be usia and hypostasis. So those terms are in the Bible. Yes.
Okay. So go back. Where is it in the Bible? Go
it's fine, Let me just
show me again. This is talking in reference to the Trinity. Just as you asked. One second. You spoke and I didn't interrupt.
If you're going to ask a question,
as soon as I open my mouth, you start speaking.
No, the reason
you can't have a discussion, Sig, like this.
I think it's 2 minutes or so.
Let's see if he's all right. Can we try, only for the sake of discussion sake, yeah? So we don't speak over each other. If you stop me, yeah, and if it's sensible, I can submit to that. If I stop you just to, if it's sensible, I can submit to that as well, yeah? Just for the flow of discussion. Are you with me, Sig?
I'm just trying to.
Are you with me? Hello, Sig.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm just getting the thing for you.
Okay, anyway, the whole contention was, was the word Trinity and the ideas found in the Bible. You said...
Yeah, not necessarily.
Let's try to let each other speak, right? No, see, this is... No. This is exactly what you did just a few seconds ago. There hasn't been a single segment where I've spoken and you haven't interrupted me. Anyway, in regards to Tawheed, regards to the Shahada, again, I showed you in the Quran. Your claim is not in the Quran. I showed you it's in the Quran. You tried to discount the Sunni traditions. I showed you in the Hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. It's also there. It's clear. The reading, the understanding, the words are there. The word Shahada is used. فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. It says it in the Quran. Muhammad Rasulullah. It says that in the Quran. It says it in the Hadith of Jibreel where it says كُنَّ جَالِسٌ مَعَ رَسُولٍ. Anyway, so from your claim against Islam was wrong. My claim against, or my question to you was regards to the words used in the Trinity of essence and persons.
Yeah.
Where do you find those ideas in the way it's formulated in the Trinitarian Creed in the Bible? Up to now, you've not been able to say it. You spoke. The moment I said it's a progressive revelation, you said, no, hang on, Hillary and these guys, the Cappadonians, it's not a progressive revelation. It means it must be there from the very beginning. You mentioned, one second, you were unable to substantiate on multiple times where these words that you make up for the Trinity, yeah, your whole basis of your belief is not there to be found in the Bible. No, you didn't. I've asked you, you put your phone away.
That's the reason.
Why did you put your phone away?
Huh?
Why did you think I didn't notice?
To focus on what you're saying.
No, you wasn't focusing all this time. All of a sudden you focused.
Yeah, but I thought that
continue
finding
it.
Do you want me to pull on my phone and start focusing?
Find it, no problem.
That's fine.
No problem.
I mean, I can do the same. I can do hypostasis right now.
Look, but you done the same thing to me. I pulled it out.
I can show you hypostasis
You
right
done
now.
this? No, in the Bible in regards to the Trinity, show us, yeah?
I thought you stopped searching.
You will never be able to find the formulation of the Trinity in the Bible.
Will
in
you
fact,
be able to find the word hypostasis in the Bible?
Yeah, you know what, I'll tell you when it's used.
Yeah.
It's used when Paul comes up to James, and James, who is a companion of Jesus, he goes to Paul and says, the people says, you have apostatized from the law of Moses.
I said hypostasis, not apostatized.
Okay, well, that's what I had. Let me finish. What does
hypostasis?
What does that mean?
Hypostasis.
Do you speak Greek, by the way?
Underlying reality.
Do you speak Greek?
I don't speak mono Greek.
Okay, why are you putting on an accent for?
That's the way it's pronounced.
No, the way. Okay, go on. The way.
I just want to be fair to the pronunciation.
Okay.
There might be Greeks watching.
If that's important to you. Anyway, the point is, you still have not. I'm still waiting for you to pull it up.
Hebrews 1:3 for hypostasis. I wanted to find.
That's not the New Testament. What's Hebrews got to do?
Hebrews is not the New Testament.
No. That's what
it is. It's the New Testament.
Who wrote? Okay, sorry. Who wrote Hebrews? Who wrote Hebrews?
Hebrews.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, in regards to
nobody knows. This is an unknown author. Don't play.
Can I finish?
Don't play.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is very important. So the modern eclectic tradition would argue that it is unknown, insofar as when they look at the titles of the text, it wouldn't actually say Paul's name or something like that. However, according to right, the ancient tradition of the church, we would be able to substantiate through the writings of the fathers, that actually it was written by Paul, but Paul just did not emanate his name on the title.
You know what pseudepigraphy is?
Yeah, but
you know what pseudepigraphy? Slow down.
Yeah, could you respond to the point that I said?
Slow down. Hebrews.
So what was the response that I gave
the claim was that this word is found in Hebrews. Now my anti-claim or counter-claim is you don't even know who wrote Hebrews.
How does that have anything to do with whether
because
it's in the New Testament?
how can someone who never knew, you don't know the author.
How does that have anything to do with whether it's in the NT?
Let me answer you.
Okay, that's fine.
It's pretty obvious. If I grabbed a book and say to you, this book says that this man is a tree, would you believe it?
I would believe the book says it.
No.
Yes. I would believe the book says it.
You don't know who authored it. How do you know that? Sig, do you know? How do you know who? If you don't know who authored it, Sig, calm down. Sig, calm down. That's not my question. That's not my question. Sig, again, you're talking over me. Sig, you're talking over me.
So I got a place in the New Testament. So this is the issue.
Go finish.
You said
you've not answered again.
You asked me this. Can you find the terms hypostasis, ousia,
in regards to the Trinity?
Yeah, good. So
you still haven't done that.
So the regards to the Trinity. Yeah, I said Hebrews 1 verse 3.
You haven't.
That is where the term hypostasis is used.
No, not in regards to the Trinity.
The Trinity is a conception. In relation to that conception, hypostasis is found. Hebrews 1 verse 3 of the same.
Is the question clear? Is the question clear? In regards to the Trinity, can you show me these words of essence?
Yes.
And
the regard of the Trinity is the conception, isn't it?
Now you're saying Hebrews, yeah? Let's say just grant for the sake of granting. I know it's not there.
It is actually there.
It's not.
The hypostasis is there.
You don't know.
For the camera, it's Hebrews 1 verse 3. Hypostasis is mentioned there.
Excuse me. Can you stop over speaking?
I just want to let people know that.
Sig, can you stop over speaking?
That's fine.
I'm going to give you a chance to read from that verse, yeah? To show.
It says hypostasis there. The word translated
again,
into English
is my question clear? In regards to the Trinity, show me where these words, persons and essence is there. He keeps on changing my question. We're going to see what it says there in a minute. Now he says, oh, it's in Hebrews. But then what he doesn't want to tell you, though he knows, is that nobody knows who authored Hebrew. There isn't a scholar worth his dime that says Hebrews were written by Paul. Paul has, how many letters is there in Paul? Paul has a bunch of writing here regards to... Are you going to just talk all over
I was going to respond to the point.
No, you're not.
So there's no one that...
Hello, I haven't finished.
There's no one that uses
there's no one that uses reason. Are you going to be rude all the way through this discussion?
You're just accusing me of being rude anyway.
Are you going to be rude throughout this discussion?
Is there anyone that mentions...
Sig.
So there are people in
can you show us, Sig, go back to the discussion. Show us now where this Trinity, essence and persons, these terminologies you use for the idea of the Trinity, that there is three persons in one essence in the Bible. I'll give you the ground. Go ahead.
Hebrews 1 verse 3.
Read it. Go on.
So this is important. Before I open up the text, I want to say something. I'm not preaching. I'm giving the same amount of conception that I'm saying. Again, remember,
the verse.
That's fine. If you're saying in regards to the Trinity, that means in regards to the conception of the Trinity. One of the points of conception of the Trinity is that the Son is equal in essence to the Father, or that he is begotten from the Father. Okay? If I can find that conception,
that's not what the Trinity is. That's not. I'm not saying part of the Trinity.
Yes,
I say no. That's not the Trinity. Wait. Do you know what the Trinity is? Wait. Do you know what the Trinity is? I need to understand this a bit. What is the Trinity?
Good.
No. You're gonna bring that out. Don't change it. This is like the fourth time you tried to hide that.
No, the only reason is
explain what your understanding of the Trinity is.
So because
one second, let me just finish. Hello. Stop preaching. I will give you time. 1 second, Sig. I'll give you time.
And then as soon as I open my mouth, let
me refine the question.
Okay, that's fine. You can refine the question.
We want to know what your definition of the Trinity is.
I was literally about to say that.
Yeah, I know, but you don't need to talk over me.
I just elevated my voice for the
time. Leave the preaching aside, Sig. Go for it.
I'm not preaching.
Show us from the Bible this Trinity.
Yeah, so let me show you from the Bible one of the conceptions.
And that's not the definition of Trinity by any standard or stretch, by the way. The definition of Trinity, show me.
It's not that God is one in Usia and three in hypostasis.
Okay, no, that's fine. But what else is it? That they are?
Yes, that.
And they are what?
That one of the persons is begotten from the Father.
Okay.
One of the persons is unbegotten, and one of those persons is also spirated from the Father. Some articulate from the Father to the Son. Doesn't really necessarily matter. Now, I'm a bit slow. I'll just slow this. Begotten. I just want to understand that. Begotten according to you, unbegotten. Yeah. Begotten in one.
It's not preceded. It's not preceded, no?
Yes, one precedes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah? You never said that though, did you?
I said one was begotten, one was unbegotten, and one precedes.
One precedes,
that's exactly what I said.
Okay, one is begotten, and one precedes. But they're still all the same. Even though one is begotten,
in what respect?
One precedes, but they're still... One second.
In respect
but they're still all the same.
In respect to usia.
Okay, go on. What does usia mean for the camera?
Yeah. So
to
usia,
nature.
Yeah. Okay. It would be translated to nature. Yeah. Some try to translate it to like essence or quiddity if you're a modern scholastic. Now, here's
what does nature mean? Let's knowledge nature.
No, not necessarily.
Knowledge isn't nature.
So knowledge
is eternity.
Hold on. This is important, right?
Yeah.
So when you say knowledge is nature, I don't think you're making some
a part
sort
of nature.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You know what I mean, Sig?
No,
come on, all of this playing about. Is knowledge a part of a person's nature?
Again,
if I say you are, for example, if I say you are all-knowing, if I say, for example, Sig, you're not understanding the question.
You want me to answer your question?
Yeah, but I have to clarify because you're answering all these other. If I say a person,
do you want me to answer the question of what nature means? Do you want me to answer the question of what nature means? I'm very calm.
If I say
it's actually identical to quiddity. It's fine. Calm down. So the term nature means quiddity, right? What a thing is. So what a thing is can't necessarily be for us Christians. We would say that what God is, right, is
not all-knowing. That's not what he is.
No, that's...
See, this is what I'm saying. You trip up on...
Hold on, I'm just going to answer
all-knowing. If God is all-knowing, is that part of his nature or not?
It is part of what he is as well.
No, I'm asking you very clear question. If God is all-knowing, is that part of his nature?
Yes, but there is also certain
yes or no?
Okay, hold on. So there are certain respects...
You're skipping over it, and you know the answer. You know the answer.
I'm just answering the question for you.
Sig, is it yes or no?
Say that God is... Hold on. So when we say that God is his nature, right? His usia...
No, God is his nature?
Yes, God is his essence. Is God not his essence?
Who's he? If God
is His nature. Is that what
God
he
is his nature.
Yes.
Godliness, you mean, is his nature.
No, God is his nature. So when we use the term God, that can be in reference to the essence. Now, at the same time, right, it can also be used in a nominal sense, as in to name something. And it can also be used in the sense of the actions that God may display in the world. Now, here is the issue at play.
What are you answering?
What?
What are you answering? What's the question? What's the question?
On what nature meant. That's
no, that's not what the question is.
That's the question that we need to inquire into.
My question was, is all knowing. Look, I say, don't make up questions and answer it.
I didn't make up the
question. If you make up
question.
Questions and answering, what's that called?
If you don't
My
answer,
question, look, Paperboy, please, Paperboy.
Why are you
please,
Paperboy? If you don't clarify
please,
your terms.
moderate a little bit, please. Because he's a Christian. I'm struggling with this conversation. Huh?
Okay, we can time it. Time it, please. Yeah, time it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
From the beginning, at least both of you.
Yeah, I said that there's no necessary need, right?
No, there's definitely a need. There's definitely a need.
2 minutes?
Usia is O-U-S-I-A
2 minutes
in
each.
English, but Usia
No, don't ask him for help. You're the one that made
No,
the
it's
claim.
just it's just because
when
my
you
data's
put
really
on
bad.
me
I have
and you
4G
said, where is
before.
it in the Quran? I gave it to you.
Yeah,
when
no,
you
but
say,
that's
where is
just-
it in the Sunnah? I gave it to
Hold on.
you.
The reason
Yeah?
why
And you say,
hold on. The
and you
reason-
put away your phone good 7 or whatever times.
because I found one
no,
of the terms
no, no.
for you. So the
you
issue
can't
that we
have a
have is-
standard for someone and not for
Yes,
yourself.
I have the same standard
Anyway,
applied to
Michael,
myself.
if
However-
I'm done. Yeah, let's
Hold
do
on,
it.
I just wanted to clarify.
You got two,
something,
no,
right? So
he's got 2 minutes.
The
Give
only
him his 2
reason
minutes.
I asked Paperboy
I'm gonna
for the
time this now.
definition,
You got
I
2
actually
minutes.
gave him where he could find it. In the Strong's
it's starting.
Concordance list, the term usia is found, okay? All I'm doing is just asking Paperboy, could you just hurry up and find the term usia in the Strong's Concordance? That's it, because I know it's there. Now, I also found the term hypostasis. Hypostasis is used in Hebrews 1 verse 3. Now, usually people translate the word hypostasis to substance, but really it's actually more akin to an underlying or concrete reality.
Get me Hebrews,
that term
please.
is used in Nicaea, for example, where it says, and he's of the same essence of the Father. That usia is used, for example. And when
a different word.
and when the Cappadocians articulate what it means for Christ to be of the same, one of the persons of the Trinity, they use the term hypostasis and use Hebrews 1 verse 3 as their justification, because that is actually part of what they believe. The threeness is in the respect of hypostasis, right? That term in Hebrews 1 verse 3 and in other places in the Bible. Now, I just gave you one of them, and then you try to do some random thing about why, you don't know who wrote that. It wouldn't matter anyway about, are we...
Should I do a minute?
No,
Okay.
is that-
Okay, you've got 1 more minute left.
Oh,
Speak,
right.
speak, speak.
Yeah, so again, asking me, you don't know who wrote that text, has nothing to do with whether the text itself says it. For example, if I find a random book in a forest and it says, horses are blue, if I don't know who wrote the book, that's irrelevant to whether that text in the forest says, horses are blue. We are talking about whether that text says something, not who wrote that text. That is true. You asked me for my conception in X text, not where did X text come from. It's a random fallacy that you're kind of just trying to sweep in, right? Sort of like a hockey thing, you know what I'm saying? So here's the issue that we now have at hand, okay? And before we conclude, we're going to say this, okay? The conception of the Trinity is all I need to find. I don't need to find the term Trinity in the Bible. The
said
earliest form of the
Hebrews
word
1,
Trinity
3,
is in
I
the
think,
words of Theophilus of Antioch in his Adultilica, okay? That's actually where it's in 186 AD as well, very early on before the time of Jesus, right towards the end of the 2nd century. And the conception of the Trinity is not just found in Scripture, but in the apostolic tradition as well. That is what I'm defending, okay? Not you
Time,
must believe in the
time,
Trinity.
time.
Sorry, my friend, yeah, go on.
There you go, bro. Hebrews 1:3.
What was it? Hebrews 1 3 you said?
Is it Hebrews 1:3?
I'll
yeah,
find
yeah.
it for you. I'll
No,
find
it's in
it.
Hebrews 1:3.
1 3, yeah? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, starting,
okay.
starting the clock now.
Okay, so the request or the demand from Sig was very simple.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard. He made the request from us. Where's the Shahada in the Quran? I gave him that, and I also told him it's in the Sunnah. Is there, it's available, and he didn't back down. He then changed it. If any of the cameras there, he changed his request, saying, "Oh no, but I want the wording to be like this and this and that." The Shahada comes in many forms, and it's there in the Quran. It's in there in the Sunnah. My request to you was very simple. I say that the Trinity was an idea which referred to the scholars, and I gave you the names of scholars, as a progressive revelation. Yes, it is. And you said no, there are some scholars, and I gave you a list of scholars. Some scholars that say no, it's not a progressive revelation. If something's not progressive, it means it was there from the very beginning. You said Hilary, the Cappadonian fathers. If this is true, this is what you said.
So no interrupt.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
So
my fault,
if
I apologize. Sorry, I have to apologize to the camera because I did interrupt him. Apologies for the interruption. Go on.
If they say that this is not progressive revelation, they have to say it's in the Bible. You were given multiple times to give these references and these verses. The one in regards to the Trinity, the question was clear. Essence and persons in regards to the formulation of the Trinity.
Okay.
I'll read for you what you mentioned because you didn't read it. It was found in Hebrews. Now the author of Hebrew is unknown. We don't know who the author of Hebrews is. It is not Paul. If you take your theology from an unknown author, then it does matter. You need to know who your author of your book or your writing, which you claim is revelation, is before you take it. Here, I'll read it. Since you didn't read it. Because remember, the Trinity, we gave him the opportunity to explain what the Trinity is. It's one essence in three persons, but there's more. This one is preceded. I'll let him read it because one is preceded, one is begotten, and one is uncreated. I'll give you to read. Go on.
Oh, you're going to read it in English?
No, you could read it in Latin.
Let me just reset.
I don't read the Latin manuscript, it's fine. So it says this, right?
So what
I'm
language?
going to read the English. Oh,
Your
really?
time is now, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Hey guys, I have two phones. Doesn't necessarily matter, but it's fine, right? I'm going to read it out in English, okay? And then I'm going to hone in on one word. And that's the word that I'm banking on for some reason. Hebrews 1 verse 3 says, "The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. After he had provided purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty in heaven." Now, this is the only time I'm going to allow him to be speaking my time. That word right there, that says substance, what does it say? Just read it out for the camera.
Substance, you just said
No, in the Greek, right there. You see that transliteration? What does it say? Just read it for the camera.
Hypostasios.
Thank you very much. So, that word, hypostasios, is actually the term hypostasis. Right, so the term hypostasis, like you just read, is in the Bible, but obviously it's in Greek, it's not in English, right? The term translated for substance right there, or being, for example, they translate it to hypostasis. It's come to be known as an underlying or concrete reality. Now, my good friend Paperboy over here, he was able to help me, not necessarily help me, because I told him where in the concordance, to find the word ousia. The term ousia is also mentioned in the Bible. According to the Gospel of Luke, it also says the word ousia. All I needed to show was that the terms that I use to describe my conception of the Trinity is in the Bible. Now, I also use the apostolic tradition, including but not limited to Basil of Caesarea, Basil the Great, right? Cyril of Alexandria, Cyril of Jerusalem in his catechetical lectures, which are very important, Athanasius the Great, and other individuals who I can't be bothered to name, and they will come around later. The point of this contention was as follows. So long as I can find the concept in the book I believe in, doesn't matter who wrote that book, because that's not what we're talking about. If you want to make an authorship debate, I'm very happy to do that, but that's not the question at topic. I'll refer you to my final example. If I find a book over there, in those section of trees, and it says, horses are blue, right? Does it matter?
10 seconds.
Oh, does it matter if that person, if we know that person wrote it? No. All it matters is that that person, whatever book it is, says horses are blue. That's the actual topic of discussion.
And this is what Christianity is in a nutshell. You have books written by multiple people in multiple regions, and we don't know who wrote it, when it was written, and to whom it was written. You have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We don't know who the authorships of these books are. There are only suppositions about who Mark was, to the point that even John, which has the highest Christology, we don't know if it was written by a single person or community. So there are scholars also that mention that John was written by a community of believers, and then the book later was titled as John. And this is the case with Hebrew. We don't know who wrote the book of Hebrews, but he's still happy to take this as his scripture and say, this is my belief. This will not uphold in any core or Islamic sciences as well. We need to know in hadith who said what and from who, and does it go back to the prophets? And that's why the very point that we make is the Trinity never goes back to any of the prophets. Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, he only ever said there's one true God. And if you see also in the Hebrew that he mentioned, it also mentions that there is one God, one true God, and there's one mediator between man and God, and that mediator is Jesus. So you have God, and then you have the mediator. So you're there telling me what some unknown author said. Read the author properly. Not one single author of the New Testament, their theology is in line with Trinitarian theology. John does not hold your theology. Mark does not hold your theology. Luke does not hold your theology. None of them do. Mark has the lowest Christology. John, which is the latest written in Ephesus, has the highest Christology. And not only that, it calls Jesus the Logos. And the funny thing is, if the original author originally put this word there, logos, why didn't all the other people before Mark write about Jesus being a logos? Because this idea came many years after. It would make no sense if Jesus was the logos that he wasn't mentioned as a god before that.
Thanks, man. Just to clarify something, guys.
Starting now.
Okay, just to clarify something, guys, I'm gonna have to speak very quickly because we're on a timer, okay? So, remember back in them times, remember that he asked me whether I can find the term usia and whether I can find the term apostasis in the Bible. Now, if you want my source, you have my very good man here who provided the term hypostasis because he read it out for you guys. And we also provided the term usia. So, just for you to jump in quickly, was the term hypostasis and usia in the Bible?
What was my question
in the Bible?
What was my question again?
Yeah, whether those terms were in the Bible.
What was, no, that's not
in
what my
regards to the
question.
Trinity,
You change it.
Yeah,
in regards to the Trinity, and you keep putting that statement out.
Okay, cool.
You keep on dropping it, and you do it on purpose.
That's fine.
This is like the third or fourth time
I just asked you whether those words were in the Bible.
But that's not what my. What's my original question?
Just answer whether they're in the Bible.
What's
yes or no.
my original question?
Are they in the Bible?
It doesn't matter. What's my original question?
Okay, so they're in the Bible. So this is the issue
you
that
see,
we have.
you have to depend on that.
In regards to the Trinity, let's define for you guys what I believe the Trinity is. The Trinity is a doctrine that maintains as follows: that God is one in usia, which is translated as substance or essence, depending on necessarily whether you're a Greek or Latin father, and that God is three in hypostasis, which is a concrete or underlying reality. Now, if I take the term hypostasis or hypostasis, that must be in regards to one of those hypostases. In Hebrews 1 verse 3, it says that the Son is the character of the Father's hypostasis, meaning the exact image of the Father's hypostasis, which is one of the very core doctrines of Trinitarian belief. One of the core doctrines of Trinitarian belief is that the Son's hypostasis, right, is of the same essence or the exact representation of the Father's hypostasis. That's basic Trinitarian belief. Now, I've shown you that in regards to the Trinity. The term usia is being used for substance or being or existence in certain respects. If I can show you that that term means what I've just said, then I can apply it to the Trinitarian life, I can apply it to the Trinitarian notion, and actually my opponent would have nothing else to say on that issue, which is why he's changing it to a historical debate.
Time.
Yeah, my question's always been the same from the beginning. I haven't changed it to historical anyway. So anyway, in regards to nature, I asked you, what does nature mean? I asked you clear in front of the cameras and the persons here. Are you going to keep on interrupting?
I was going to answer.
Okay, let's be a bit polite here.
Do your time, it's fine.
Yeah, nature is all-knowing part of nature. And you knew the answer. No, you knew what the answer was, but you fumbled because you knew you didn't want to admit it. To have knowledge is part of a person's knowledge, nature. If I say you are all-knowing, then that's part of your nature. Jesus did not have this part of the nature. He said he grew in knowledge. When he was asked in regards to the fig tree, he did not know the season. So when he was asked about the last hour, he did not know. He said, no man knoweth the hour, apart from God the Father. Even if you would say, okay, he humbled himself, what about the Holy Spirit? The only one who knows the last hour is God the Father. The Holy Spirit is part of the Trinity. Why does he not know the last hour? Did he also submit himself? Why did he submit himself? Did he humble himself? We've asked about these words that they use for the Trinity, and we haven't found the answer in regards to the Trinity. When we say the Son to who? The Father, both of eternal. How can you have two beings who are eternal, and one is being called Son and one is being called Father? It makes no sense. If both have the same beginning, one cannot be under the other. What does Son even mean if you have two eternals? If all of them are spirit, before Jesus came to earth, he was a spirit. The spirit is spirit, and God is a spirit. Why do you call only one of them a spirit, and the other ones you don't call a spirit? If there were all three of them, if all three of them are equal, why is it that one proceeds from the other? One is begotten and one is uncreated. These are core things that make up a nature of a thing. If I say you are unbegotten and I say you are begotten, these are two differences in natures. This is the...
No, it's not. It's a difference in
answer.
Okay, cool. So as you can see, he's basically just moving to either a logical debate or a debate on the history of the Trinity. I have sufficed to be able to show you the conception of the words that I use in regards to one of the conceptions of the Trinity that I showed you in the Bible. So let's attack what necessarily he said.
is sa'a. Sa'a mean time.
Stop the clock.
And Quran will be
After.
the hour our lives.
Hey, I can't lie, I'm rude, but that guy, mad. But it's calm. Nah, I'm joking. I'm not. But look, I don't know why I put my arm around you. I just felt comfortable. But look, so
I stopped the clock.
what I'm gonna do now is basically.
Should we? Is that only this week?
Yeah.
Let me know when you want to discuss as well. Yeah. If you feel you want to jump in.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, this is
continue.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
continue?
Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna present to you now is how a text is meant to be understood. So we have a book, that's fine, but we also are gonna inquire into how that book is meant to be understood in Christian tradition. I'm going to show you one of the bishops of Alexandria who has apostolic succession back to Saint Mark himself specifically, who actually explicates on this doctrine, specifically on Jesus growing in wisdom. So it says this: to say that the child grew, this by the way is in Sermon 5 of Cyril of Alexandria's commentary on the Gospel of Luke. It says this: to say that the child grew and grew strong in spirit, being filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him, must be taken as referring to his human nature, because we believe in the hypostatic union. Christ is one in hypostasis, that is true, but he is also two in feces or nature. There are two feces of Christ, one divine and one human, and the hypostasis does actions according to each. So when it says that the Christ grew in wisdom, he did those actions in accordance to his humanity. However, Cyril, because this commentary is very long as you can see, provides another understanding of how this is supposed to be understood. That, and it's very important, that as Jesus Christ in his humanity grew up, he showed more of his divine self, of who he was as God, of who he was as the Lamb of God and so on. So much so to the point that when Jesus Christ finally did die on the cross, a pagan centurion was able to say, this man truly was the Son of God, because he was enlightened and had his eyes opened by Jesus. Now, what I've been able to show is an adequate understanding of how that text is meant to be understood.
10 seconds.
Second of all, in my next response time, I will go into actually the eunomian premise that this guy tries to substantiate with actually no evidence. I'm so sorry.
So I mentioned son, I mentioned the meaning of father, I mentioned the meaning of spirit. You said that these weren't theological things, which is strange. Yeah. You said historical, I'm told. It's a theological thing. This is the crux of your Trinity definition. What is the Father? What is the Son? What is the Spirit? What does the word mean proceeded from? What does the word mean begotten? What does the word mean unbegotten? Don't tell me these aren't theological. These are theological concepts which is found within your Trinity. You are unable up until now to show us what I requested from you in the beginning. You spoke a whole load. You spoke about this and you used all of these theological terms. Your language, oh wow, it's amazing. But you haven't substantiated. You haven't substantiated anything. Even in my last point, you can't tell us what Trinity is or even nature. Nature, you can't tell it. Knowledge is part of nature. If it's not, well, let me finish, isn't it? Yeah. If you can't tell me what nature is, you can't tell me what Trinity is. That's it, and that's the difficulty. You lot go around preaching the Trinity, and you know that the scholars of your Christianity say it is a mystery. If it's a mystery for you, it's a mystery for all non-Christians. You cannot tell us what these definitions are, because I've read what the scholars say, and they say this is what it means about with the word mystery. The Trinity is a mystery, and it's the way to cover your eyes from actually understanding that this makes no sense. Jesus was very clear, there's only one God. All of the prophets before him, there was only one God. The companions came to Jesus' companions, the apostles, he's talking about the Apostles' Creed, came to him and said, excuse me, stop the time. Stop.
I'm sorry,
you
I
keep
just didn't
doing
talk
it, you
about
keep
that.
doing
That's
it,
my fault.
sig.
Yeah, but don't say that I talked about
Stop.
something I
You
didn't
said
talk about.
apostles, you said...
I said apostolic tradition, not the Apostles' Creed. What are you talking about?
Apostolic. What does apostolic mean? What does it mean? What does apostolic mean?
In pertaining to the apostles.
Apostles, thank you.
So when did I say Apostles' Creed? Tell me.
You said...
Anyway, so you didn't actually say Apostles' Creed. You waffled about something.
Stop. You're just making
you're
making yourself look silly.
I see,
you're making yourself silly.
And you're lying.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
it's
are.
there on camera.
Yeah,
Let the people who are smart enough... The people
on camera will know I never said Apostles' Creed. If you're going to appeal to me being like angry, I'm not.
Sig, calm down. stop
I'm
speaking
completely
over me.
fine. I'm completely
I'll
fine.
let you speak.
I'm
This
completely fine. Just don't lie on me,
Paper
please.
boy, can you jump in? I can't continue like this, though.
So you don't want to talk to me anymore?
No, I can't. I can't.
just continue
It's
to
become
rant.
unbearable.
Yeah, just continue,
bro,
man.
bro.
I'm
Anyway,
unbearable, it's okay.
this okay. Let's make this I'll give him the last 2 minutes and another 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna stop it. Yeah, but it's going nowhere. Jesus, the people
Also,
came to
stop-
Jesus.
I'll stop moderating. You can just both.
Yeah.
But he's going to speak over me.
Don't
That's
worry,
the
I
thing I
won't
know.
speak over
You
you.
can't. You haven't been able to not do
I
that
won't
all
speak
the way
over you,
through.
it's fine, carry
Yeah,
on.
exactly. So when the people came to Jesus, Jesus said,
Nah, it's fine.
"Who do you say I am?" They said they didn't. They said you are you are the prophets. You are Moses. You are this and that. Not one of them said you are God. This is what the apostles believed. When Jesus apparently died according to you, the ones in Acts, the 120 believers, they prayed only to one God. Read James what he says. The devil worships one God. Good, even we worship. Sorry, you worship one God. Good, even the devil worships one God. This is a testimony of James, who is supposed to be apostle to Jesus, the one that held the Council of Nicaea. He was the head of the apostles. James, the brother of Jesus. He worshipped only one God. And you read, no.
Because you're not on time, so I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. So let me finish. I'll give you all time.
It's just
Yeah?
on James and Nicaea. Just
Yeah, sure. Let me just finish and then I'll give it to you. Yeah. So you read. In fact, they were referred to as the Jesseans, the early Christians. After the period of yeah. No.
No, the Essenes are the
See, this is
Jews.
what happens when you
You're
try to
talking about
laugh.
the,
Yeah. No. See,
Ebionites.
again, this is
That's
what they
Ebionites.
don't know. You know, you don't know, and you're trying to laugh and mock it,
Jesseans.
but it comes back to you. They're originally called Jesse because Jesse is the son of David, and they took this name from Jesse, David's son. Yeah, Jesseans. Yeah, and they were the companions of Jesus were originally referred to as Jesseans. Epiphanius of Salamis says this in his Paneras. Now, Jesseans later became known as the Nazareans. Yeah, and they later become the Ebionites. And these people have a tradition which goes back to Jesus saying what? Worship only one God. And all of them was Jews, and Jesus was a Jew. And if Jesus saw you worshiping to him, he would not know what you're doing. He would say you're doing blasphemy. And that's the truth. If Jesus was here right now praying to God like how the Bible said he did, yeah, on his face, if any one of these Christians saw him, they would not pray to him. Rather, they would join Jesus and pray with Jesus to the one true God, which Jesus has always spoke about, and all of the messengers before Jesus. And you see that God says that in the Old Testament, even Jesus says it in the New Testament, and this is what we say as Muslims in the Quran. You can reply, Quran.
Okay, cool. So you made a bundle of necessary errors. So the first error that I would.
Are you cameraman or are you a debater?
Hold on. Hey, bro, it's alright, man.
Like what?
So,
We'll talk.
So I want to point out the first error that I see that you may have made. So the first error that you seem to have made was associating Saint James the Just with the Council of Nicaea. I don't know if you're going to retract that. But yeah, James the Just had no partaking in the Council of Nicaea. As we know, James died in the 1st century. The Council of Nicaea was in 325. There was a prior council in 321 that was hosted in Alexandria where they did kick out Arius. 325 was just confirming what the world already knew. Now, the issue
You guys want me to still moderate this, or?
Nah, it's okay.
I'll give him the.
Yeah, it's final word, isn't it?
But James is he's the one that held the Council of Nicaea when he called Paul.
You
know that?
No, sorry.
Jerusalem. Thank you. But you know what I'm talking about. You pretend.
Now
you don't.
I know what you're talking about. I
So
genuinely
it's the
thought you
same
were saying
James.
Nicaea.
It's the same James. Yes?
James the Just
He was
did-
an apostle.
He was an apostle.
Okay, thank you very much.
So James the Just did hold the Council of Jerusalem, but that had nothing to do with Trinitarian theology because that wasn't actually a pertinent issue. The pertinent issue wasn't on the being of God, it was actually on converting to the faith.
That's
in the
not
first
what
place.
we said.
That's
Why you
fine.
keep
That's
going
fine.
on to other things?
I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, but that's
So
the only
you're
time you
interrupting
did.
me?
You've interrupted me
I've
all the way
interrupted
through.
you all
That's
the time,
right.
so I'm
Yeah.
going to finish, right? So
But it's got nothing
the
to
issue
do.
that
You
we
keep
have- hold on,
waffling
the
about
issue
every
that we
other
have is this.
subject.
So when we talk about the essence of God,
What is he talking about?
Okay.
okay, so cool. So when we talk about God with his essence and God with his nature, right? You want to talk about whether knowledge is part of nature. I accept that knowledge is part of what it is to be God. That is fine. However, the term know that is used, for example, in Matthew 24, verse 36, doesn't necessarily mean an intellectual assent or proposition. It can mean that, but it isn't always restricted to that case. Case in point, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 2 is a verse that is used by Paul, and he says the same word oidon, which is the Greek word for know, I did not know anything among you except for Christ and him crucified. Now that term is used as a declarative verb to say that Paul did not preach anything or declare anything except Christ and him crucified. So it is very well within the biblical scope to actually say that the term know that is used in Matthew 24:36 is actually used as a declarative verb. Also, we could say that even if it's used for this intellectual assent or proposition, Basil the Great, again in his letter 236, he also details exactly how this term is meant to be understood. That the Father is, because he is the first hypostasis of the Trinity, he would be the first good or the first one to know and pass that eternally hypostatically to the Son. That is a way that the verse can also be understood. Again, Athanasius of Alexandria also gives a third understanding of how this is to be understood, that it is referring to Christ's humanity principally. Augustine confirms this when he talks about the canonical rule that Christians in his day and in the days before have used for scripture as well. Now, here's the issue that you also said about what it means to be unbegotten, what it means to be begotten, and what it means to be preceded. There was a slight fumble that you made with the words, that you tried to say that you kind of switched out the word unbegotten for uncreated, and I would disagree, right? Because just because you are begotten, it does not necessarily mean that you are created. In order to be created, you would need to change and be.
What does unbegotten mean for you?
Yeah,
what does it mean?
Unbegotten is identical to the term unoriginal, i.e., there is no other underlying reality that is.
So if I say it's not
existence.
original, okay. So what does that mean? Uncreated, yes.
Uncreated. Okay.
So if someone is responsible for you, that means you're created.
If something is the reason for your subsistence, it does not mean that your subsistence itself is created. There is no philosophical justification for that, unless you're arguing from this weird Neoplatonic.
So you check the definition of begotten. You check it, yeah?
Yeah, the definition of begotten
is that it is also created. It is also
some
created.
People that
and some associate.
Well,
I'll let you speak, isn't it?
No, I wasn't finished.
Okay,
Right?
I'll speak to you after this. Go on, you.
Yeah. So the term begotten.
You speak with.
No,
No, but it's no point. There's no point. There's no point. You can speak. You can speak. I wanted to speak to you.
But
it's not what you mean nice. He's cut me every single time. He's cut me every single time. But the thing is, every time he's just going to change the topic and then preach.
When did I change the topic?
You talked about the Council of Nicaea, what the purpose was. The Council of Jerusalem, what the purpose was. No, that's not what I said. I said James proceeded over that. Because reason he proceeded over the Council of Jerusalem. No, see, it's what I'm saying. Every time I speak, he speaks. I don't know if he's got fire in him.
I'm kind of doing a wrap-up.
No, but every time I've spoken, you've spoken over me every single time. And it's like it's in this weird sarcasm you got going on. Okay, no, but okay, finish in the camera, go on.
So, look, when you're saying unbegotten, right, this is a eunomian premise, right? Eunomius was one of the bishops because he tried to argue that unbegotten is identical to the term uncreated, and because Christ is begotten, he is created. Now, the Church Fathers clarified that the term begotten in Scripture has a dual usage. It can mean begotten in the sense of having given birth to in a created fashion, and there's a variant in that insofar as when it's applied to the Son. But the term monogenes, which means only begotten, right? Monogenes, that means of your own kind or of your own
I'm not talking about only begotten.
Yeah.
Begotten, but that's just begotten.
In application to the Son simply is a term that we Christians use to designate the procession of the Son from the Father.
Okay. See, that doesn't make any sense. That unbegotten is used as the designation for the procession of the Father. You haven't. Okay. What does procession mean?
Procession?
Yeah, what does procession mean?
Well, depending.
Do you know what I'm saying? One meaning of one word depends on another word, and that word depends on the meaning of another word. And you end up with this airy-fairy. There's no definition to.
You the definition
are you
of
gonna
the term
look?
preceded,
Are you gonna talk over? It's like you're not listening.
But you interrupted me.
Okay, look. No, that's silly. That's it. Yeah. But thing is, look, that's just getting ridiculous. You're not listening. It's not listening. You're not listening. No, because I wanted to speak with Paperboy because I've always had good discussions with him. With you throughout this whole discussion, you've managed to listen. Even now as I'm speaking, you're talking over me.
Yeah,
finish what you're saying, and then I'm gonna speak. Go on.
Okay, so unbegottenness again, right? If you want to talk about begotten, it means in a way that someone proceeds from the Father. A procession can be.
Okay, look. I'm gonna talk to him. Sorry, I'm really sorry, but I'm really sorry. Yeah. You listen to him. When you're finished, you speak to me. Yeah. But I'm done with this conversation.
You're going away from me.
Yeah. I'm here, and I'm gonna continue discussion. If people, yeah. Do you wrap it up?
The last thing I want to say is how we can use the term.
How's it going?
Let me just check this out because he'll pick up all your every private conversation.
Well, when an application to the Son
Not sure who these belong to.
Procession. I was going to say spiritual as well, but that's
I don't know who these belong to.
Oh yeah, There's normally clip them on the. If you clip them
procession
up.
from the Father. And that's why the song can have the same essence of the Father. So
I have no idea.
we can say some sort of emanation. This one. Sorry about that, mate.
Where's Let's Unite Upon Haq?
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Look, if you ever want to have a discussion about Trinitarianism, if you ever want to have a discussion about you said you're the Panarian of Salamis, right? Yeah.
No, I said
Epiphanius of Salamis. I just said Salamis, but that's fine.
I don't know.
So one thing to know about the Panarian specifically, we don't necessarily have
Do you want it?
why he mentions it.
Alright.
Also, whose microphones were these? Are these mine?
I don't know. This
The
is
problem is, I don't feel the need to win. Do you get it? I'd rather hear what you got to say. Just about
the
these
preservation of the
terminology. You want to talk about preservation?
of the Quran,
Yeah, and the Bible?
the Qira'at and stuff.
Huh?
Qira'at.
Yeah, and the Bible?
Okay.
Yeah, and what about this on good? How do you put this on?
Yeah. And before we do that, I do have some questions for you. I've been asking Muslims some questions.
No, let's. Should we continue off the?
No, I just want to ask you some questions. So maybe take 10 minutes or so.
No, I'm not doing 10 minutes question now.
No, I just have some questions to ask you. So basically, let me find. Maybe you might be able to give me an informed answer.
No, if it's top of my head, I won't be able to do it.
If it's what?
If it's off the top of the head, I won't be able to do that.
Well, I'll ask you then.
What is it about? Tell me. These all of your arguments, yeah?
No, I have like references because people don't like discussions without references. So,
Well, ask me off the top of the head then, isn't it?
okay. So, obviously you speak Arabic. I just wanted to get to your understanding. Read the Arabic.
يا زكريا إن نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا.
So what is your understanding of that verse?
So it says, O Zachariah,
Yeah.
we give you the glad tidings of Ghulam, like a boy, and his name is Yahya, and we had not given unto you or humanity from before this particular name.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that, so if you go to Al Jalalain, they also say this means that no one had this name before him.
Yeah, given by Allah.
Ibn Jarir. And they said that is, again, no one with this name. So you're saying no one had that name before?
No, the wording is quite clear. It's not that I said no one had that name before. And this is an old age Christian argument with that. It says inna nubashshiruka. That noon there is saying that we give you glad tidings, of a boy that we will name him Yahya. This reference to Allah giving the name of that child, that Ghulam, his name Yahya. So we don't have a person that we know that Allah has named Yahya in particular.
Okay, so the question would be why would they...
And even if you wanted to argue, but the translation, this is not nothing to do with Yahya.
Yeah.
But one would have to argue, where's this word Yahya in the name?
Well, this is the thing. So the question would be, why would they, obviously this is translated by Muslims, why would they put, because you're basically saying their translation is incorrect.
No, I never said that.
Well, they're saying this means that no one had,
No,
they don't
see,
reference
this is
Allah.
written for apologetic. You know that, yeah? So, for example, when you read the Bible in the beginning was the word, that's not written for scientists. You know that.
Okay.
But you can have apologists who writes it for polemics and apologetics, and you can deal with that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So now when you pass this grammatically, you find this, and you can ask anyone that noon is, for example, na'lamu, it means that we do something.
Right. So, but then you're saying this is an incorrect translation.
No, it's not as precise to answering what you're trying to make.
Yeah.
What's your claim? You're saying
So I'm
now
saying they
is
don't
that
specifically mention...
the name Yahya was given by God to someone before?
Yes. No. Sorry. I'm saying from these two, they're saying no one had that name.
That God came.
Well, that's not,
we give you Bashir.
well, that's not what they say though. So they
but
say...
I'm telling you, this is the Arabic. You can ask anyone there that this is the noon there is reference to Allah.
Okay.
That we are giving you glad tidings.
Okay. So you're saying this is a mistranslation?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, okay,
I'm saying the way English. Look, do you know any other language? you know any other language?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Do you know there are some things in language that don't get translated? Like it's raining cats and dogs.
Okay.
Can you translate that in your mother tongue, or if you have another language? Can you translate that? No, it's called idiosyncratic. There's
Right.
some things you can't.
So you're saying this is an idiosyncratic.
I'm saying there are features that cannot be translated
So-
like that.
So you're saying they cannot translate. Allah said, "We have not given this name to anyone before."
No, they have chosen to translate it like a can I read it?
Yeah.
So they've chosen to translate
Because
it.
all they have to do is add Allah
Where's
has
the
not assigned this name to anyone.
Where's the translation?
There.
It says, "O Zakaria, verily we have given you the glad tidings of a son,
Yeah.
whose name will be Yahya." There
Yeah.
you go.
So,
but there's no problem with that.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
But it says that translation has the meaning.
Right. But I'm saying, when we go to the tafsir, obviously that's where we get the understanding. But I'm saying, you're trying to say,
What was your argument?
well, I'm just trying to say, they say no one has had
Say your
it.
argument. Say your argument.
Well,
and then we can
so
visit
my
the-
point is,
Here it's saying
that
clearly that Allah is given the, Nubashiruka.
right.
Yeah?
But I'm saying, and I'm disputing that, because my point is,
No, you can't. This you don't know how to do it.
I'm saying this is not translated. You're saying I don't know Arabic. So I'm saying when we want to understand something, we go to the tafsir.
No.
No?
Tafsir is for the explanation of the meaning of something.
Exactly.
But the words, no.
Right. So I'm saying, so here they're saying the meaning of this text.
Trust
so,
me, paperboy. Nubashiru, that noon
Yes.
is reference to Allah. And
Right.
it says the meaning of the
So
translation.
yeah, but
Trust me on this.
but my point is,
Is your
Okay.
argument hinge on this or something? Yeah, this is the problem.
Right. So
That's why
I'm-
you seem stuck on it. But
Yeah,
I'm telling
because-
you,
yeah, because
I'm
I'm
telling
saying-
you, it's not going to work. That particular one, it won't be able to work.
yeah, but I'm
Your
saying,
argument won't work.
but the whole point is, you're saying that is an idiosyncratic term that can be translated.
No, I'm saying they've chosen. Look, here, even if you read this, we give you the glad tidings of the son whose name will be Yahya. We
Yeah.
give you the glad tidings.
Yeah, we give you
Yes,
the name.
we give you the
Right.
name. Exactly, you just said it. There you
Yeah,
go.
we give you the good
so
news.
the argument is there. It doesn't make sense, your argument.
Of course it
we
does.
give you the name.
So I'm
you
saying,
just said that.
all right.
So Allah is the one who
right.
gives the name.
So you're saying Allah gives the name.
yes.
So in terms of then the verse in context has a meaning. Because I'm saying, read the this bit.
So this is
the-
this is Ibn Kathir, yeah. We have
Yeah.
given the name to none before him. Exactly as I just said, yeah.
Yeah.
Qatada ibn Jurayr ibn Zayd
no,
said,
you said it incorrectly. Yeah, you got it. Oh, yeah, sorry.
thought
Yeah.
we should.
No, yeah, I was looking at the wrong part.
"This means that no one had this name before him."
Right.
Yes.
So where does it say this means we had given the name?
It says it in the beginning. We have given that name to none before him.
Right. And then the explanation is what? I'm saying, look, the
Okay, just skip it. It just sounds sticky. It just,
it's cool.
Go to your. Let's just go into the discussion.
Yeah.
Because it
I
says
had-
that
I-
even
I-
in your
okay,
opinion.
that's fine. We'll skip the cycle.
Yeah,
Because my question is, in terms of Allah,
yeah.
is that the divine name of God, or is it derived name? What is it?
So some say it's mushtaq from two words meaning al-ilah, which means the God. Ultimately it means the same thing. Some say no, Allah in and itself is the name of Allah.
Because within Christianity, obviously we use the phrase Jehovah.
Okay.
As the
But where
first
do you
name.
get the nouns for the vowels for Jehovah to pronounce?
We get
Jehovah?
that from Deuteronomy.
But they don't have vowels. The word for
Yeah.
God
Oh,
is
so
lost.
the vowels.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
The
So
vowels.
it's taken
The
from
vowels
the word
was
Adonai.
yeah. The word. Well, yeah. It was
So you don't know how to
anglicized.
pronounce it?
Right, but we still know the consonantal skeleton. of the
Consonantal,
word.
yes.
Which-
But
right.
it's impossible to pronounce that word
That's fine.
without the vowels.
But that's fine, but we still know, for example, if everyone knew your name, Hamza, and everyone forgot how to use your name, but you still had the
You
spelling.
would say, hey, you can have Hamza,
No,
Himzu,
but what
Himzi.
But what I'm saying is...
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
but what
won't
I'm-
have the pronunciation.
Yeah, but if we have the consonantal of your name, you may not know how to pronunciation, but we still know what your name is ascribed to. If we had the H,
You'd have,
Z.
yeah, you have the
Right.
HMZ.
Right, so that would still denote your name, even though we don't know how to pronounce it.
Pronounce it, so you
Right.
don't know what
Yes.
the name is.
So I'm
because
saying, okay.
Himzi wouldn't be my name. If someone
Yeah.
said, yo, Himzi,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be my name.
Yeah, of course.
Someone
But-
said Pepper Boy,
Right.
that would be wrong. Because the consonant is
Yeah,
different.
and that's fine. But as long
The
as we
vowels
have the
aren't
consonant, my question is this. We know what the tetragrammaton represents God's name. So whether we know how to pronounce it or not, we know the Tetragrammaton, that's what it's called. This means that represents itself God's divine name, even if we don't know how to pronounce it.
Well, what good is it if you don't know how to pronounce it?
Because my question is...
Like, it's like me saying, I know this is God's name, but I can't pronounce it.
But my question is that divine, was that divine, do you as a Muslim accept the Tetragrammaton? Was the divine name revealed to Moses?
It may have been. It's simply, there's nothing for us to, right, where would we get this evidence? How would we know what Moses called God in accordance to the Bible?
Okay, because this is what I'm trying to say. So obviously between Christianity and Islam.
Because we don't believe, ultimately, the crux is we don't believe the Bible to be a preserved book.
Right.
And even the Hebrew scriptures, we know they were originally in Hebrew. Okay. They lost them, and then they were originally written in Greek. In fact, every statement, I'm sure you know this, that Jesus speaks of in the New Testament refers not to the Hebrew, but refers to the Greek, which is strange, right? Because Jesus wouldn't have been a Greek-speaking person, as your scholar said. He would have spoke Hebrew. But every time he says, you have heard it written, but I say unto you, every time Jesus quotes, it's interesting, isn't it?
But we don't have a problem with that.
But he doesn't quote Hebrew, he quotes Greek. But he would never have spoken Greek.
Yeah, but we don't, no, but in terms of first century Israel, people would have, we don't know, you can't say for definitive that he wouldn't have known Greek. We would have known Aramaic was the main language, but because Greek was the lingua franca at the time, there's a high probability people would have known, for example, because they used to read from the Septuagint as well. So there's no...
But you know, off the back of the Maccabees and the revolt and everything that took place at that time, and they lost their tongue language of Hebrew, why would Jesus then be speaking in Greek of Hebrew? Like, think about it. They just fought. They fought the Greeks. You know the story of the Maccabees, right? They just fought the Greeks because of this Hellenization that was taking place over them, yeah? They just fought the Greeks because of it's just fought. So now why would Jesus be using the very tongue that those Jews before him fought against?
Because everyone else was using it. So your argument, your argument is based on a presupposition that if they have some sort of animosity.
What do you think is more likely? So I'm asking, do you reckon he'll be speaking Hebrew? Jewish people? Remember, he didn't.
We can go by. We can only go by even what scholars will say. They'll say most likely.
Pause. Yeah, keep that thought there. 3 seconds. 1.
Like,
and I'll get to my point.
No, but you've asked those questions now.
Yeah, I just get to my point because I did that.
Oh, okay, got you. That's
And just get your...
Go.
So it's the name now. You're talking about the name.
So obviously this is from Islam Web, big guys in Saudi or whatever. So someone asked them...
I don't think this is...
This is some committee or something, I can't remember. So they said, what is the true name of Allah? Is it Yahweh or what? So they said the real name of God is Allah. This is the name that he named himself in his revealed text. Right. So the reason why I asked this and about the Tetragrammaton, because it's when you look at Arabic names, you have prophets that are named after Jehovah. Obviously, I'm going to just say the anglicized. But the question would be, Elijah's in the Quran. Yahya would be Yochanan in Hebrew.
No, Yahya.
Yahya is John the Baptist.
So but it wouldn't be Jonathan.
Yeah, Yochanan.
No, I don't think that's right. I don't think.
Yeah.
Go.
And then obviously you have Zachariah. So that's why I'm essentially asking.
So what I was reading anyway, you know we have names of the angels like Jibreel and Mikael and these IEL actually, the ending is interesting. It actually refers to God. But some of the Mufassirin, the explainers of the Quran, they actually say that this ending comes from Syriac, which is a Semitic language, very closely related to Aramaic, Syriac, Hebrew, and Arabic. Yeah, so it doesn't say that this is a Hebrew word.
Well, even from scholars, we would know these names, and I'm not focusing on the L, but for example, Yochanan, like if you ask a Jewish person what this means, they will tell you what the name means.
Yeah, but could be very well adopted into their language. From Syriac into Hebrew.
No.
Because this is what I'm saying. Some of the Mufassirin that I read,
but you wouldn't find any scholar, like any scholar, Western scholar, that would affirm what you're saying. So maybe.
I've not checked. Have you checked that? I've not checked.
There's no one that would say
That say that the original of these names could be Syriac.
you would have to provide that.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Go, make your argument.
So essentially my point would be, obviously I'm going to use an anglicized Jehovah, and Christians will say that was the
But
name.
how do you know that this is the name if you can't say the vowels?
No,
For
but-
Jehovah, just
but
for
I'm saying-
clarifying,
okay,
Jehovah
for-
is
right,
important
for
vowels from a word
Right.
other than itself.
But for
But those vowels,
simplicity-
you don't know where you go from.
Just for simplicity's sake, I'll say the Tetragrammaton instead of saying
But
Jehovah.
even if you say that to the you
Of course, it doesn't. The pronunciation is not important.
Of course it is.
Because for example, if we know this is the construct of God's name, the consonants, we know.
your name is what? For example, your
Yeah.
name is paper.
But-
If I take away the A and the E in paper, someone could say, look at the consonants of
Right.
this, and say, no, it's not paper boy, it's pepper boy.
But again,
Do you understand the
but
difference?
that's irrelevant.
And there's
I'll
no,
tell you
it's
why.
not. Because in Arabic or any of the Semitic languages, these short vowels, fatha, dhamma, kasra, are very important in pronunciation. If you don't know these vowels, you cannot pronounce a word.
But this is my point.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll tell you what.
So you say Jehovah, you have to ask where you get this
but
from.
that's what I'm saying. We can negate the word for simplicity, Jehovah. But we know that Yod Hey Vav Hey represents
What's
the
Yod Hey Vav Hey?
That's the letters Yod Hey Vav Hey. That's in Hebrew.
No,
The
you
Tetragrammaton.
can't say it. You cannot pronounce that without a
But
vowel.
I'm not making that point because we're going around in circles. So for simplicity, I will say everyone knows this is the representation of God's name.
If the letters, these
Yes,
are the
the
letters,
letters.
okay, no problem.
That's why.
That's what you are believing.
Yeah, that's why Jewish people say Hashem.
Yeah.
That means their name.
Yeah.
So it always
Because
represents.
you're so holy, they
Yeah.
could not pronounce
Right.
the name.
So that's
and
what
they
I'm saying.
eventually forgot the name.
Right.
This is what the
So that's what I'm saying. Let's forget the name Jehovah. We still have the Tetragrammaton, which is the letters.
Okay.
So we know this represents God's
For
name.
you, yes.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. You're saying for us.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm asking what is God's name because we have prophets that their names have the God name.
What's your argument? Because you use the word God.
Yeah.
The
so
Hebrews say,
essentially,
the Hebrews,
If you
you
make
think that's
clarify
from
my point. If Allah is Jamid,
okay.
then
okay. Yes.
Yod Hey Vav Hey cannot be Jamid too.
This one cannot be what?
Jamid
Do you know what Jamid means?
is original.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that means Allah's
So-
name has always been Allah. It can't be.
No, that's
Mu-
not what I mean. In grammar, you got Jamid and Mushtaq.
Yeah, Mushtaq
something
is
which
derived. Yes, and ilah.
and Jamid is that it's not derived.
So what do you believe it is? Jamid or Mushtaq?
No, I don't have a belief on it. It's my faith is not integral on this.
Well, it's an interesting thing
No,
because
no, it's not.
well, if you have a God, it does because if,
But it
if
doesn't
Allah-
affect my theology. Is what I'm trying to say.
but
I
if
believe
Allah's-
God as well.
Yeah, but if Allah's name is derived, then it means it can't be an eternal name, which is what people try and claim when they say Jamid.
Well, this is it. If it's let's say, for example, it's Jamid, yeah? That means that it was his name. But
Well, that's what some Muslims will argue.
yeah, but I still don't understand because there will be Malaika, there will be Jinn using the name. Let's say you take them all out. Who will be saying this name? According to you.
Take the one.
Like if no one is saying this name, it's a strange argument. I don't really see the force of the argument. So God's name is either Jamid or Mushtaq, yeah, derived or underived. And you said that if it's derived, it cannot be determined.
Yes.
Is that what you're arguing?
Yes.
Okay. But
Because
how
it's-
does that affect your theology, like your belief? What's a like? Is it,
no, but
like
it
for
was-
example, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, well, it would say because Muslims, obviously, some Muslims believe Allah speaks Arabic. That's the eternal language. That's the divine language. In heaven, they speak Arabic.
No,
so
no, but
they
just
base
say
their
that
claim-
the Torah was revealed in Hebrew.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with that. What was given to Jesus could have been given in Arabic. We don't have a problem with that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's
Well,
disagreement.
God is not they can't restrict him only to one language.
But I'm
He
saying
knows-
this is,
he knows
but that's
all
why.
language,
But
he's
that's
all
what I'm
knowing.
saying. This is within Islam, Muslim.
I don't know. I don't find that a strong argument.
Okay. Anyway, we'll go to our next discussion.
Okay, so the
That
first
was
one, first
obfuscated.
discussion, yeah. First one, you mentioned Yahya. That was the name Yahya. The second one was the name of God. But
Yes.
you didn't explain, like, as in, if
Right.
it's so important to you, the name, then but you can't pronounce it.
But that's irrelevant, and I'll tell you why. Because even if we can't pronounce it, that's why I said, if we know your name, even if we know your name with the consonant, with the vowel.
You can't pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm saying, even if we knew your name with the vowel. If you went to China,
Okay.
no one knows how to read, and they don't speak English. They don't know how to pronounce your name. Let's say you're the last person on earth called Hamza. You go to China, they don't know English. They can't pronounce your name. It's still on paper when they show you, with the consonants or not.
But it's meaningless on paper if you can't pronounce it.
It still
Most people,
yeah,
no,
it still
but most
represents
people
your
were
name.
illiterate at those times. They couldn't even
Yes,
read those letters.
But again, it still
It's-
represents.
and that's why they use Hashim.
Right. But
Because they couldn't, they forgot what the name was.
But the point
but,
is, it
but,
still
but what I'm
represents.
saying, if your argument it hinges on how important the name is,
What you're trying to do. Yeah, but what you're trying to do.